Hello YouTube, my name is Paul, I'm 22 years old, I'm from Orlando, Florida, and this is my Saber taping tutorial. I meant to make this video a really long time ago, but I didn't have the time, I was stressed out, but now I have the time and the energy to actually make this. So thank goodness I can actually make this video. This video is meant to educate people about Colorguard, so share with your friends and whatnot. But just make sure if you're part of a Colorguard, it's better to follow the techniques of your Colorguard, whatever way you tape your saber, rather than listen to me. I'm just giving out more information for you to learn about because Colorguard is an ever-changing activity. This video is really long, as you can see by the time. I know it's going to be long because it's a tutorial, and I want to make sure that I include all the information that I can so that I don't miss anything. But if this video does become outdated, and if you're on a computer, I want you to click on the gear at the bottom left and then click to turn on annotations just to make sure that there's any notes in the videos that I've added. If not, if you're on a mobile device or anything that doesn't display annotations on the video, then just go to the description and then look for any details there. Okay, so other than that, let's get into the taping tutorial. So hey guys, for the first part of the video, I'm going to talk about the anatomy of the saber so you know what I'm talking about in terms of what words I'm using to refer to the saber. I'm using a king saber, which is 39 inches long. I've been using this. It really doesn't matter what kind of saber you use. There's plenty of out there. I just like using a king. I've been spinning this my entire career. Starting from a 36 in high school and then moving to 39 when I went to Carolina Crown. This is going to be called the hilt area. We have the nut or the button or the end of the saber on this end. This is the hilt area, as I said before. There's the black grip, there's the middle side of the black grip, and then there is the small silver portion right here, and then we have the basket. So there's not a lot of terms for this area. You can also call this the hilt guard. I don't know if people say that, but I feel like people say that. And then we have, so that's the hilt portion, this is the blade portion. So usually when you hold it like this at right flat. This is the usual orientation, so this is going to be called the top of the blade, and then this is going to be the bottom of the blade. And then there's three main points on the blade portion that are really important that people like to use when taping. There's the balance point, which is around this area, so whenever you toss it in the air, you can spot it using this point. And then there is the catch tape, which is about 11 inches on a 39 and 10 inches on a shorter saber, or a 36. That was invented, I don't know when, but it was invented. And then there's the tip of the saber, and that's pretty much the anatomy. It's pretty simple. So now that we know the anatomy, I'm going to talk about the 4 different ways you can tape your saber. There are 4 different ways you can tape your saber, and you're probably thinking, dang, that's a lot of different ways you can tape your saber. Alright you guys, so there's 4 different ways you can tape your saber, and you're probably thinking, dang, those, like, which one should I choose? But, you know, it's honestly up to preference, like, whatever you want. The ways that I'm going to talk about only refer to the blade. Like, taping the hilt, it's its own thing. Like, I don't know what people do with that, but there's usually 4 main ways to tape the blade. And for the first one, it's going to be called the minimalist. There's no terminology for this, people just tape it, but I'm just making up words. It's going to be the minimalist, so the only thing that you tape is the balance point using black or white tape, the catch tape, which is, you know, in this area, and then we have the tip. And of course I'm going to overlay pictures so that you can see what I'm talking about, but yeah, that's the minimalist way. The second way is the lengthwise way. I've seen my friend from BD, or the Blue Devils, and Punk Rock Irving, I saw him tape his sabers like this. They use the lengthwise, I don't know what they would call it, the lengthwise way, where they only use longer pieces of tape, and they use 4 strands. So they would take, I believe they would put 1 on this side of the blade, 1 on this side of the blade, and then 1 on top, so they would like curl it over the blade like that, and then on the bottom. And then they would, of course, I guess it's up to preference if they would tape the balance point at that point. The catch tape is always taped, and then the tip. That's the second way. The third way is the half spiral. And today I'm going to be teaching how to do the full spiral. The half spiral is whenever you take the balance point and you don't tape this portion, and you only use the spiral technique on the rest of the saber. And you of course tape the catch tape and the tip. And I think some people tape the balance point in black or white. It really doesn't matter. But yeah, they leave this part naked, I should say. And there's different reasonings for this. I asked my friend Tom, who actually marched the academy this past summer, and he said he didn't know why they taped it like that, but I think he said that I think they just wanted to have more shine on their saber, and that's pretty common, especially with the minimalist way. The hilt prevents, like if you were to drop it flat on the ground, the hilt prevents this part of the blade from getting scratched up. And usually it's only this part of the blade that gets really scratched up if you drop it without any tape on it. So yeah, and it also spins, it doesn't spin differently, but it looks different in the air, and especially when you spin it. And for the last one, it's the full spiral. So this is the most common way. You've probably seen it on most color guards. If anything, you probably do this yourself. But it's whenever you use the spiral taping technique to tape the entire saber. And then of course it's up to you if you would tape the balance point, but the catch tape and the tip are always taped. And yeah, those are the 4 different ways. And today I'm going to teach you how to do the full spiral. This is the most common way. I feel like people should know this way at least if they want to get into it. And it's not complicated, but I want to make sure that people understand how taping works in Colorguard. So yeah. Alright, now we're going to get to the materials of this video. I'm going to be using scissors because I don't like taping my tape. I have 3 different types of tape in black and white, and then I have my Sharpie so I can write my name on it. Now you're probably thinking, why would I want to tape my saber? Well, one, there's 4 different reasons and I wrote them down so I wouldn't forget. One, it adds friction and grip so that it's easier to hold the saber. Yeah, there's friction. It protects the metal of the blade so you don't scratch it up. The 3rd reason is you add weight to the saber, which is really important because adding tape to your saber closes the gap between you spinning rifle and you spinning a saber. So it doesn't feel like you're spinning a rock and then you're spinning a toothpick. You know, when you pick up your saber. I guess this is like a preference sort of thing, but it doesn't add any shine to the saber, so like it won't shine under the lights, like it won't like flash when it's in the air. But yeah, those are the 4 different ways. Those are the materials. To elaborate more on the materials, there's 2 different ways you can, there's 2 different tapes you can use. There's, you know, like the off-brand like U-line electrical tape, which is a lot cheaper. And then there's Scotch electrical tape, which is really, really popular among Colorguard spinners. Scotch tape is really, really popular for several reasons. I'm just gonna show you what the material thing looks like. So I usually get mine from Home Depot, and it says it resists fading and it's great for color coding. This is what I usually get. I know it's really expensive, $4? Dang, for a roll. What I do at Carolina Crown in high school, you'd only put 1 layer, usually. Most color guards, 1 layer is the way to go. But when I went to Carolina Crown, a lot of my friends said it's really common for other color guards to put 2 layers of tape on your saber, and you're probably thinking, dang, 2 layers. I'm going to be teaching you how to do that today. I would use 2 layers, so when I was at Crown, I'd use the cheap tape underneath, and then I'd use the expensive one on top. And the Scotch tape is really, really good because it resists color fading. It doesn't get as dirty, so like, if you use this tape, it doesn't get like grimy, it stays cleaner longer, and this one has like a little bit of shine to it in comparison to U-line. But I would say if you're on the cheaper side and you're totally okay with using U-line, honestly it only costs $20 to get 10 rolls of these. It really doesn't matter what kind of tape you use. I'm going to get into the reasons later of why you would use 2 layers of tape, but for now I'm going to tape the hilt first using my black U-line electrical tape. Alright you guys, we're going to just jump right in and start with the taping. So I'm going to use my U-line tape for my first layer. It doesn't really matter if you start at the tip or at the hilt, but I just like to start at the hilt. And then I just go all the way up the blade, and then I come all the way back down for my second layer. So what you're going to do is I usually start right here. Alright, so I first placed the tape right there. As you can see, it's right next to the hilt, very close. And then I'm just going to turn the saber over, extend my tape, right, and I kept it pretty close, as you can see right there. Now that I've had 1 for rotation, I'm going to start angling the tape at this point. But from here, I'm going to angle the tape like this, and this is going to start my way up the saber. And I'm just pressing down with my fingers to make sure that the tape is stable. It's kind of hard to talk and do this at the same time, I didn't realize. And then I'm going to do another layer. So as you can see right there, do you see that? There's like a small indentation. Do you see that overlap in the tape right there? Oh, there you can see it. So there's that overlap. And as I turn the saber over again, you can see that my tape has already started to angle, and I can just follow that again. And I keep that overlap width that you can see right there. Do you see that? That's an overlap. And this is really important because you want your saber to weigh a certain amount. You don't want it to be too light, too heavy for you to spin. You want to make sure that's the right amount. And you just have to, this is like trial and error. So whenever you start doing this overlap thing, I use an okay angle so that I get this amount of overlap when I start taping. And think about it, if you were to make the angle, if you were to increase the angle, then the overlap would be smaller and you'll be using less tape to cover your saber. But if you make the angle smaller, then the overlap will be bigger and you'll be using more tape to cover your saber. So this is really important for figuring out how you want your saber to weigh. And for me, I just use this, okay, it's an alright overlap, and I just continue this. And it's just really important as you work your way up the saber that you keep this overlap consistent. Alright, and that's pretty much it. It's pretty simple. I know that was like 3 minutes of taping, but yeah, you know, this takes quite a while for your first time. Before I time lapse this next part of me taping my saber, I'm just going to give you 2 tips when you're taping. Whenever you're taping along the saber, use your fingers to press out any air bubbles when you start angling the tape and when you're placing the tape down in general. So as I place the tip down, I'm just going to press down with my fingers just to make sure that there's no air bubbles, no air bubbles. You want to also keep the overlap consistent as well, and try not to stretch the tape too much. So as you can see, I'm just kind of like unraveling it, but not pulling too much on the tape. You don't want to stretch out the tape because this is like a flexible plastic tape. You don't want to stretch it because you'll create tension in the tape. So it's like you're stretching a rubber band, and then or like stretching a string. It's easier to cut the string, if you know what I'm saying. So yeah, do not pull on the tape when you're unraveling it. Just quietly unravel it with your hand. Use your fingers to press down on the tape, and then keep that overlap consistent as you work up the saber. Another thing, and the last tip for while you're taping this, it's gonna get progressively harder to keep the overlap the same because the saber isn't a straight line. It's a sort of curve. So as you work your way up, you'll start to feel it in your taping that it'll start to shift. But just stay consistent, keep the overlap the same, and then you should do just fine. You're probably thinking, dang, Paul, why are you starting with this? Don't you want to tape the balance point first? No, do not tape the balance point. Do not tape the catch tape and the tip first. You have to do those last, because if you're part of a color guard that keeps everything consistent, if your catch tapes don't line up and it's underneath all of this tape that you're doing right now, because like I'm doing this in one layer, like without stopping, then you'd have to take off all of this tape, redo your catch tape, and then redo the entire saber. But if you already taped your saber and it still looks fine, all you have to do is take off the catch tape, which would be on top of this layer, or the balance point, and then just move it, which is a lot easier. But yeah, with this next part, I've gotten to the end of my first layer. Now before I get into the tip, I'm going to talk about having to do 2 layers. Alright you guys, I'm going to be very informal with this next part. Having 2 layers of tape on your saber is kind of a preference. When I was in high school, I only did 1 layer of tape, and then when I went to Carolina Crown, all my friends were like, oh, you should do 2 layers of tape. It's really common to do 2 layers. One of my friends even did 3, and I was like, okay, that's a little much. 2 layers is, you know, the really recommended if you're in a high level color guard or independent color guard. And there's multiple reasons for this. The first one is it protects the saber more. The second reason for like doing it is that it's not that bad whenever you do it. Like it's easy to not really focus on doing the overlap and such. You can just use the first layer as a reference when you're taping. And then the third reason is it closes the gap between the weight of your saber and your rifle. So like your saber is a lot lighter than your rifle just in general, so it's better to have a second layer, that way you close the gap. For me, I spin a really heavy rifle, so I like having 2 layers so it doesn't feel like I'm spinning a feather, you know? So yeah, I'm going to teach you the 2 different ways you can do a second layer of tape on your saber. Also, another reason I forgot is whenever you do 2 layers, I just started thinking about it, you just use your first one with the cheap tape, and then you use your second layer with a really nice Scotch tape. So that it's shiny on the outside, and this one is just meant to protect and serve as a first layer. But I'm just using my U-line so I can demonstrate. So the first way you do it is with an X formation. As you can see, I've lined up the edge of my second layer of tape in between the overlaps of my first layer. And then all I do is just keep on going in between. And then as I form the overlap with the second layer, as you can see right there, as it forms over, it makes an X. And as you can see, I'm still just going in between the overlaps. That way I keep the same amount of overlap throughout. But honestly, this is the way harder way. So I'm gonna go back, take this off and show you the real way. or the much better way, which is known as the zigzag. In this case, instead of the overlaps crossing over each other, they make a nice zigzag pattern. And just to like show you what the way I started going around this way, around the saber, going up the saber, and then to make the second layer, I just keep on going the same way and I just go in the other direction to make the overlaps do that. So to do the zigzag, it's pretty simple. Whenever you start your second layer, go ahead and start angling the tape right away. Like don't like wrap it around like to start and then start angling. Just go ahead and start angling from the start. And all you have to do is, so as you can see, I'm referencing my first layer and the overlap is right there. All you have to do is line up the edge of your tape with that first layer of the overlap on the left side, and then all you gotta do is turn the saber over and do it again. And then lo and behold, if you keep going and just keep doing that, the zigzag already starts to form naturally. It'll just automatically form. So I just keep doing this. So I just line it up with the left part right there, do it again on the other side, and then the overlaps just naturally form. And this is a lot easier, and you just want to make sure when you're doing your first layer that you get the overlaps right the first time. So as you can see, my overlap is pretty consistent. Like it got a little bit thin here, but I think that was because I was trying to offset the bigger gaps on the other side. So yeah, like it doesn't have to be perfect, but just make sure you try to keep it as consistent as possible. And whenever you do your second layer, if you want to do a second layer, it should be easy peasy, just like this. So yeah, all you gotta do is line it up as so, and just go all the way down the saber. Yeah, so like during drum corps, I wouldn't really worry about the first layer. My first layer pretty much stayed intact throughout the entire summer, and all I had to do when I was on the bus, just quickly untape the second layer, take off my tapes, take off the catch tape and the tip, take off the second layer, redo it using this method. Within a low amount of time without much thinking, I can retape my saber for a show day, you know? So yeah, other than that, I'm gonna time lapse this next part, and I'll see you when we get to the last bits. Okay guys, for this part I'm gonna tape my hilt. I only tape, for me as a preference, I only tape the nut or the button of the end, and I tape all the way around. I just use the spiral technique all the way around this part, ending up to here, and I keep this silver part free. I'm just using my black U-line electrical tape, and basically you just have to use the spiral technique. Same thing again. I'm just making sure this part can be really prone to air bubbles, so just make sure as you're taping this part, using your fingers to press down the air bubbles, especially in this part, making sure that this part really shouldn't affect your taping job. And if you have a really big roll of tape like this one, you should be able to do all of this with one piece of tape just by rotating it and then using your fingers to press on the tape as you bring the roll through, and then continuing to go around, and then just pulling it through and then continuing on. And you just do you just do that all the way down. I'm just gonna time lapse this because this is kind of silly. I'm gonna do the catch tape, which is 11 inches from the end, and then I'm gonna do the tip really quick. So I have a piece of paper and I measured it with a ruler. It is 11 inches. This is from IKEA, obviously. And then all you gotta do is just do this, and then, or just take 11 inches from the end of the saber, from the tip, on a 39 inch, and then you just place the middle of the tape at the end of the paper. So the middle of the tape at the end of the paper, that's where the catch tape should be. My friend said, again, if you're using a 36 inch saber, then you would just make it 10 inches from the tip of the saber, okay? Alright you guys, I've just taped my catch tape. Yep, there it is. It doesn't have to be crazy, as long as you can like feel it when you're not looking at it. I'm going to teach you how to tape the tip. Now, this is a very, very interesting technique that I learned from my friends at Crown. My friends, Sally and Anthony, they both told me about this technique, and I believe that this is the most important technique of all, that everybody should use it. I think it's super cool. Let's just get right into it. So this technique is called, I'm gonna call it roping. I don't know what else you would call it. I would recommend using your cheaper tape because it does take a little bit more tape than like, I guess what you would usually do. What you do is you take your cheap tape and you take it in your finger just like this, and then you just wrap it. I'm calling it roping. So I'm creating a sticky tape rope. And you're like, why do I need this rope? Well, what you're gonna do is you're gonna take that rope You're gonna place it around the saber like this. And you're just gonna spiral up using the rope. You're gonna put the rope, yep, you're just gonna keep going all the way around town. Just like that. As you can see, I've roped it all the way to the end, and whenever you get to the tip, you just want it to spiral. So as you can see here, this is bad lighting. As you can see here, it like spiraled in, and it just made a cap. And what I did, I just used that cap. I just set the cap in place by using my nice Scotch clean tape to just settle the cap in place. Now the downsides to this taping job is that it is more prone to coming apart easier, but it's pretty easy to fix. This provides a lot of friction to the end of the saber, and it looks really nice. Like it's not that bulky. It's not like I'm adding like a whole freaking hard shell on the end of the tip of the saber, but it is there whenever you are manipulating the saber from the tip. All right. So yeah, from here, I would just wrap it around a few times in a spiral motion, covering all the way to the top, and that should be it for the tip. This is what my finished tip looks like. Very simple, just wrapped around. Yeah, that's all it is. Let's say you're gonna place the spotter tape. So usually what you do is where you're tossing. You're tossing from the hilt like this, and you go out, whatever. And whenever the saber is rotating in the air, there's a spot in the saber that's right about here, like where I'm holding it, where the saber should naturally turn around in the air. And people like to place their spotter tapes here because it's it makes it easier for them to quote unquote spot the saber. To place the spotter tape, all you have to do is just do trial and error. So what I would do is you would just take a small black square of electrical tape and then place it on this side of the saber where you can see it on the side that you're tossing on. You would just see it rotate in the air, and then you should either say two things. One, the spotter tape doesn't move, like it just goes straight up and straight down, or it'll like do like a little spiral in the air, like it won't be like stationary, okay? And this just takes trial and error. I don't think there's any specific measurement for it, but if there is, like, please somebody tell me. It's also really common, I meant to say this earlier, for your catch tape to be black as well. Some people do that. Usually the tip is white just to match the rest of the saber, but other than that, that's pretty much all the taping stuff for the saber. Yeah. Alright guys, so all in all, that was my saber taping tutorial. I know it was very long. I mean, I like just like put all the footage on my computer. I'm like, oh my god, there's a lot of footage. But I made sure that in each section, each one had a lot of concise information. I hope that if you did make it through, all the way through this video, that you did learn something about taping a saber. Please share this with your friends. Please like this video. Comment down below and tell me what you want to see in the next video. And please subscribe for more videos, because this is not the only tutorial. There's gonna be more after this. Rifle taping and flag taping are coming right after this one. Hopefully soon. I don't know how long it's gonna take me. Pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love Colorguard. I hope you love Colorguard soon, or I hope you fall in love with this activity. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye. Oh, and one thing. Yes, I did. It is the next day. And yeah, it's the next day, so